The situation in Hormuz is escalating further and further. Yesterday, ships were attacked. What does all this mean for our infrastructure, for the energy we so urgently need? And I'm telling you, things are really going to escalate back there, to the point that here in Europe, a government or two will probably end up falling. That's exactly what's happening in Germany right now. Because more and more experts are saying that this government might, and I want to distance myself from this, but in April or May could see its final days. And this chancellor is simply no longer acceptable for Germany. That's what today's international report is about. You know how it is at noon we always talk about European topics, or rather about world politics. And I would say, let's take a close look at what happened there yesterday. By the way, if you want to support this channel, I would really appreciate a like and a subscription. The response from Iran was then unmistakably clear, and they broke off all, and I mean really all, negotiations because of it. And actually, things were supposed to continue tomorrow or the day after, either with the bombardment or with the negotiations. And anyone who followed Flight Radar a bit yesterday and the day before would have seen that a massive number of planes were heading toward Israel. Of course, none of us knows what was actually on board. The next problem we have, for those who followed Flight Radar a bit today, is that there was an extremely high amount of activity at Ramstein Air Base as well. What all of this has to do with the war or the current sequence of events, we'll probably only find out in the next few hours or days. What I can say right now, however, is that there are no more Stratotankers in the air. The airspace over Israel currently only has civilian aircraft. Is that a good sign or a bad sign? I don't know yet. I think it's more like the calm before the storm. And the German government is now also preparing to help at the Strait of Hormuz, but only once the hostilities are over.
The Iranian leadership has already threatened retaliation. Due to the great uncertainty, the oil price rose significantly during the night.
That, of course, inevitably means that in the next few days, fuel will become more expensive again here in Germany. And before we move on, heading into Europe, I would like to play you a short clip from a woman who, well, wears 400 euro shoes, and naturally she had something to say about that. Yesterday at Yoska, when I saw it this morning, I just lost my temper. How can someone be so ideologically blinded that they don't even consider that people might live in the countryside and sometimes need to go shopping or have things to take care of?
Ms. Schnitzer, how many people in Germany are actually affected? Very few. If you drive a car, you can at least afford a car.
That's a huge mistake. No, many people actually can't anymore. Why do you think car sales are... New registrations in 2024 have dropped by 22%, and in 2025 by another 19% compared to 2019. Because people simply can't afford to drive anymore. But what options do we have if we live in the countryside? The numbers are even more alarming there, and we absolutely need a car to get to work and keep everything running. Yes, dear lady, then please explain it to us clearly.
But most people will be able to handle that quite well. Now let's talk about someone who maybe drives 1,000 kilometers a month for work. Let's say 6 liters per 100 kilometers, that's 60 liters.
I asked my neighbors if anyone here can actually get by with a small car using 6 liters when working in the city. There are no buses running here if we live outside the city because the bus companies have stopped operating. They say it's not profitable, so we don't run anymore. All of them, yes, all my neighbors here that I asked, people around me, told me, hey, 6 liters, that would be a dream. And partly, secondly, we're talking about roughly 25 kilometers, yes, that you have to drive in the morning to get about 1,000 kilometers a month because you have to go there and back. That's a naive calculation that doesn't add up. You haven't even gone shopping yet. You haven't even driven your kids anywhere yet because they also want to go play or do something else. Of course, sure, the state is saving money at our expense and we all have to cut back again. Sounds familiar to me. It was the same in 2019, 2020, 30 euros.
30 euros a month. Maybe you'll go on vacation for 2 fewer days. Maybe you'll buy 1 or 2 fewer sweaters.
And before anyone who wears 400 euro shoes and just oozes decadence tries to tell me anything, I really have to say, and then they tell us, yeah, they can just absorb all of that right away. Let's take a look at the statistical average of Germans. The average car, statistically speaking, a gasoline car, yes, that's really the case, uses 7.9 liters per 100 kilometers combined, and that's from both city and country driving. The average German, however, commutes 78 kilometers per day, which, by the way, is far above, I've written down the numbers, which, by the way, is far above what you're telling us right now. That adds up to 1,590 kilometers per month and an extra cost of 63 euros without having gone shopping or taken any other trips. But yes, of course, it's great if you just lock people up so they can't go anywhere. If you live in the countryside, for example, you might have family who live 30, 50 or even 90 kilometers away because you might have moved somewhere else for a job. But yes, if you manipulate the statistics so that you only take the kilometers of the average citizen, of the average worker, then she's right. However, sorry for the harsh statement, but yes, retirees drive much less, and of course that brings the whole statistic down. People receiving welfare benefits drive much less. That pulls the average down. And no, you're allowed to receive welfare benefits and own a car. I just wanted to make that clear for a moment. And I still wonder, when are we going to have protests like that here? I mean, protests that really come from the people. No, I don't mean individual YouTubers or TikTokers announcing a demonstration just to put themselves in the spotlight. I mean, when will we actually see a real mass uprising here in Germany? Because actually, what we've just heard, plus what's coming, since they can't come to an agreement and our government clearly says they'll only secure the streets in times of peace. For example, in Ireland, they managed to lower fuel prices by about 30% to cushion the impact. Here, we've only managed 17%, just to note. And in Ireland, they're now listening to the public and saying, okay, let's see what we can do. They've now put together the largest and strongest economic package in the entire EU, while here in Germany it actually leads to more expenses for the citizens without cushioning the impact. If we put this whole situation together, plus what's still to come, then we're pretty much left on our own. And we have a huge, massive problem because in 11 days at the latest, or 10 days according to the government, we're supposedly going to run out of fuel here. Which should tell us something. If we release more reserves now, we won't be able to replenish them before winter. Or do we just take to the streets, or do we simply allow it to get dark here, just like it is in Berlin right now?
We're planning this, we're running through the scenarios, also considering potential partners and how such an operation could be put together. But all of this is still in the planning stage and depends on the conditions of the ceasefire.
So, and now there's something that somehow isn't being widely reported here in Germany, in Europe. If you look at the US media, you'll find it on CNN, you'll find it on Fox. If you look at the news in Israel, for example, you'll find it across the entire spectrum and notice it. Leading military experts who are not in Europe expect an incident within 3 to 6 months. And yes, I know that many people say, yes, we still have so many ships that are off the North Sea and aren't being unloaded. They're still fully loaded with energy supplies. Well, if you take a look at some new pictures, we're actually doing pretty well. You might still remember the video with the Ford Knox and the Ford Carpet. Yeah, then most of the ships aren't actually as full as they seem. Because the draft, yeah, that the ships have is quite deep, and apparently those things aren't really full anymore. And I just wonder, why are so many people speculating that those things are still full when they might not actually be full? If you're asking, how did you come up with that? Hey, there are a lot of pictures on X, a lot of pictures on Instagram, and if you look at these ships, they don't actually have as much draft as they normally do. Should have, if they were completely full, which is why I'm just putting forward the opposite thesis. Those things are empty, and we're just being made to believe that we might still have a strategic reserve because they know it would take 3 to 6 months. And that would also explain why they keep talking about it over and over again. Yes, we're still looking for new mechanisms to relieve you. Because that's the point, yeah. If this chaos continues, then they have to throw you something again at the latest before the elections in Saxony-Anhalt. Otherwise, they can't run an election campaign. And a campaign that somehow gives you the impression that you're being relieved. And if they manage to push through everything they've announced now, then we don't have to worry about Saxony-Anhalt anymore. Then we'll have voter approval. I think news published that Sigmund Ulrich will get over 60%. So things are going to stay interesting in Germany and in the EU as well. By the way, tonight, in addition to the live show, which by the way comes after the live show, there's cronyism in the CDU.